Hey, everybody, welcome aboard The Shallows, the pod designed specifically for all you 10-team and smaller league managers out there. Alongside Chief Mate Carson Picard, I'm your captain, Erik Henriksen, and joining the crew as honorary first mate for the day is a very special guest. He is the Director of Analytics and Research here at Pitcher List and co-host of The Approach Angle on the Pitcher List Podcast Network, and he's also affectionately known as Big Dog. Welcome aboard, Kyle Bland. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, happy to be here. I'm excited to be on.
So happy to have you here. And before we get underway, we here at Pitcher List have something awesome for you. Our live draft assistant is fully updated and we've completely overhauled it for your drafts. Think of it as having a personal scout, an analyst, and a master strategist sitting right next to you as your draft. Or you can just imagine it's Kyle sitting right next to you as your draft. Kyle, why don't you tell us about the live draft assistant?
Yeah, so I tell all my friends, I'm like, if you want to know what I'm doing in our drafts, just subscribe to Pitcher List. All of my tools are exactly just how I think out there. But so what we provide with our live draft assistant is we generate our Pitcher List PLV projections, and that's for every player. We have utilize our pitch level model for pitchers, and we utilize our process plus hitter stats for hitters, along with their other stats to give some of the most I think interesting projections, a lot of fun flag plant guys. And so those get folded into a draft assistant tool that follows you along, that you can enter your picks. You'll see live standings. You'll see all of this good stuff for you to maximize kind of the value as that you can make your draft the best it can be.
Yeah, that's really awesome. It's an awesome tool. Kyle was kind of responsible for building it too, which is really awesome. Like you said, his draft strategy is his tools. So log on to Pitcher List, get a subscription. You can dominate your drafts with our live draft assistant. Use promo code PODCAST-LDA15. That's PODCAST-LDA15. Oh, and don't forget to follow the new PL Stats account at Pitcher List PLV. Also responsible for that. That's right, Kyle.
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun, especially we've got it up for spring training, World Baseball Classic, and it'll be into the regular season, just following along how every pitcher's doing that day. A lot of our kind of internal metrics, a lot of stuff that like Nick looks at when he's analyzing a pitcher in a nice, easy to read, clean interface that presents a lot of fun information at a glance.
It's a really fun account to follow if you aren't doing that yet. So on Twitter, it's at PitcherList PLV. On today's show, we've got the Captain's Report. We're checking in on spring training and the results of the WBC. We have our position previews. We're up to starting pitchers and relief pitchers. It's the last two positions we have. And then we have the return of From the Crew, where we have accumulated your questions over the last few weeks that we're going to answer right here on the pod. But before we officially leave port, we release a new episode every Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, so be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. And a video version is viewable on YouTube same day as well if you want to see our beautiful made-for-radio faces. So leave a 5-star rating, a like, a thumbs up, a kind review, and don't forget, we are part of the Pitcher List Podcast Network, so check out the other pods that we have available daily. And visit pitcherlist.com to check out the latest and greatest content published there as well. We'll be right back with the Captain's Report, so stay tuned. Kyle was staying with us the whole show. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Shallows. We are here with the Captain's Report. First, we're going to talk about the WBC results. It's over. Venezuela beat the U.S. 3-2 in a mostly boring game, I suppose. It got really exciting in the 8th inning, right? I just, forgetting the result, what do you guys think? I wanted to ask you about this maybe being like a mid-season tournament, like around the All-Star break, maybe have the All-Star game and then have the WBC right after. What do you guys think about that?
I think one of the things is like it's really frustrating to have pitchers concerned about ramping up for the regular season. I don't know. I was thinking about this a lot last night. I don't know if that issue is going to be solved by putting it in the middle of the season because, yes, they're already stretched out, but then teams in a playoff position are going to make sure they absolutely want to minimize their injury risk going into the year. Imagine last year if an already exhausted Dodgers rotation had to send Yamamoto out to pitch for Team Japan, right? I mean, they're going to be really alarmed by that. And while the All-Star break is really nice because it's basically a break for the players, they might throw one inning, it would be it would be a bit of an issue from a pitcher maintenance side. I think it would be better for the overall attitude. I think we might see, though, it become something where pitchers or teams are actually more reserved with their allowances to have players play, and also players really pending free agency. If you have a hot first half and your stocks are way up, absolutely you're not jeopardizing that in any way. And like with Skubal, there was risk about him being in a contract year, and he's obviously going to make $1 bajillion. But if he gets hurt in the World Baseball Classic, it's a huge issue. Imagine if it was in 4 months from now, he has a 1.6 ERA. You think he's touching for Team USA at all? I think that's a really far-fetched idea.
Kyle, what do you think?
I really like it. I think, yeah, the injury risk is such a prominent thing, at least for pitchers, just in baseball in general. Like, I know, I grew up, Carson and I, big hockey fans, and the NHL for a while, the All-Star format was like North America versus the world, and they just did All-Star games like that. And I think like that could be kind of a fun, like, here are your North American All-Stars, here are your like Asian All-Stars, your European All-Stars. We got Great Britain, we got Italy. And even like you can mix it up and do like Caribbean All-Stars. Like you could do a bunch of different formats that could be really fun, but like the balance of, if you want guys really airing it out and giving it their all, I think like a mid-season exhibition, you're not going to get that. And I think that is what we get now, which is great. But you're right. Like some of these guys are still kind of obviously ramping up. And so you're getting this like kind of sad facsimile of a guy looking like he's really trying, but it's like 80 or 90% of what it is. And there's also something to be said for like, are you going to get the semi-pro teams, like the great stories, like the Czechian team? Like, are they going to come mid-season versus now? Where is it going to be host? Like, there's a lot of issues with it. I think it would really be fun. I kind of think we just leave it as it is, that like you consider it kind of extended spring training for some of these better players. We're not seeing guys go super deep, at least all of this is pitching concerns, the theme for the show, but yeah, they aren't going too deep. Guys are going maybe 4 or 5 innings, which we're starting to see in spring training starts now anyway. So I think we keep that. It keeps like that same level of competition. And it's baseball. There's going to be some injury risk, and it's going to be fluke stuff. Like, I know everyone's big concern is, well, Edwin Diaz got hurt in the last World Baseball Classic. And it's like, yeah, he got hurt jumping for joy. Like, random injuries happen all the time for the stupidest reasons. That's just part of life. And so I think for the game of baseball, it's so sick to have it right now. Like, I don't know that people have been as geeked to watch baseball. Like, people are going to be stoked to watch spring training starts now and are like counting down the minutes until opening day. And I think that's a really cool thing that you don't really get any other time.
Two things. One, baseball players should never jump for joy. Kendrys Morales' career was ruined like that. And two, who was in midseason form? Playoff Aaron Judge. We saw that throughout the entire World Baseball Classic. Anyway,
postseason form.
Postseason, your postseason form. Moving on, we have some pitching news out of Reds camp. Chase Burns, Rhett Lowder, and Brandon Williamson all made the Reds roster. They're kind of going to piggyback off each other, I believe, to start the season because none of them are fully stretched out. Plus, they're being really conservative with their workloads. Was it really ever in question that Chase Burns was going to make the roster? I don't think so, right?
From a sense of if he's healthy enough, but
I think, look, that forearm, whatever that was last year, that was totally workload management nonsense.
Phantom forearm.
The phantom forearm. Just like, the phantom, nickname. My finger got caught in a zipper injuries that happen to baseball players only. Last bit of news here, of course, pitching themed. We've got Gerrit Cole through a scoreless inning in his 2026 debut, and he averaged 96.9 on his fastball. Kyle, did you see anything? I saw there was a tweet from the PL Stats account. Anything interesting from those 10 pitches he threw in one inning?
I thought it looked good. Like, he was gassed up. We have one of the things that I really like about our player cards is they show you performance kind of relative to what they were the last time we saw them. So I have it set up that it'll pull relative to 2024. And he was up. His velo looked really good. He was up a mile an hour on the 4-seam. He was, touching 97, sat 96.9. The sinker was up, almost 98. He only threw 2. Again, like, he threw 2 of them. Like, these are very small sample sizes we're working with. But like the fact that like he could hit that top gear even in a short burst is very encouraging, because we haven't seen that with a lot of guys like Spencer Strider, Shane McClanahan. Like, those are guys where it's just like, oh, we're hearing, oh, well, he's only going 80%, he's ramping back up, and like, it's a lot harder to project velo improvement on injured guys versus this is like, oh, okay, now it's just stamina. Now it's just building up, them letting him eat more. That like, he's got the fastball, he's got the velo, so it's a lot easier to feel confident in that.
Yeah, I was very encouraged by Gerrit Cole's start as a Yankee fan. Just in case anyone forgot. But that does it for the
No one
captains.
did, Erik. No one did.
Well, we'll get to your Twins later. I see that in the rundown. That'll do it for the captain's report. We will be right back with our position previews, starting with starting pitcher. Kyle Bland has joined Carson and I for today's show, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Shallows, this pod designed specifically for all you shallow team managers out there. We're going to talk about starting pitchers and relief pitcher previews today with Kyle, with Carson, giving you our biggest targets, our biggest avoids, and our biggest swing for the fences picks. So, first up, we have starters. And Kyle, as our guest, what is your preliminary thoughts on the position as a whole? And then give us your two biggest targets.
I mean, starters, it's beautiful in the sense that like, it's what you make it out to be. There's something for everybody. If you want that lockdown ace, there's at least 3 of them I would consider like just the complete alphas, your great whites, if you will, of the position, that like, these guys are undoubtedly the top. And then you have just a bunch, like, if you're not committed to that mid to late first price tag, that like, okay, you could start shopping in the second and third and have a lot of really quality options that do a lot of different things for you, whether you want ratios, whether you want innings. And then even as you get down, I think there are a lot of, we'll get into mid round, like kind of targets, guys who were fading, and even some like late round, really like high impact guys who are showing a lot of really fun stuff that maybe we can extrapolate from and go from there. So I think it's great because there's something for everybody, and that's great for drafts because you can usually get your guy without having to reach too much.
Carson, what do you think about pitching as a whole?
I'm gonna piggyback off that. I love the great white. Thank you for using aquatic terminology. You're in spirit today.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna start calling them the killer whales.
He gets it, ladies and gentlemen.
He does. He knows it. It's so nice for analysis purposes to have a definite tier 1 of pitchers. I feel like it's been since the peak Scherzer, Verlander, and Kershaw years that we've had that, and Zack Greinke too. He often gets cast aside, but like, it's been a while since we've had that very consistent. We can say these guys are great. They are first round values, very early second. I mean, they're fantastic. The rest is a lot of like, kind of, you can pick what you like. If you like really high strikeout, maybe more flimsy glass cannon type guys, there's tons of those. If maybe more consistent volume-based Christopher Sanchez, Logan Webb types, those are in there. You got productive veterans, young guns. It's a really interesting mix, and I think there's a lot of value throughout the mid to later rounds of the draft.
There really is a lot of value in the mid to late rounds. I'm finding that out as we're doing our slow drafts here on Pitcher List, the behind-the-scenes leagues that we have. I really am surprised at just how deep the pitcher pool goes this year. Sometimes, in the past, it's been maybe 30, 40 guys that you want to roster. Now it's kind of like almost 60 I don't mind having on my roster. So I think it's a really fun time, a really nerve-wracking time to deal with pitching. So with that in mind, Kyle, who are your 2 targets that you're aiming for starting pitchers?
Oh man, these are 2 guys who just have just nasty stuff. Nolan McLean and Emmett Sheehan. If you didn't watch Nolan McLean start the World Baseball Classic final, you missed just the guy's using a wiffle ball. Like, the amount of movement he gets on all of his pitches is absolutely absurd. We're talking like he can get 40 inches of separation from his fastball to his sweeper and his curveball. Like, I don't understand how hitters like ever make contact, frankly. Like, there are a lot of concerns that, he can't command it because they move so much. Like, the Matt Brash comes to mind of like, oh, they're huge pitches, but they're always out of the zone. But like, when you have 4, 5 of them, and they're all like plus. Like hitters have to respect your ability to drop one in that's going to touch the edge of the zone. And he was just surgical yesterday in that start. I know he gave up 2 earned, including a homer, but like he made some of these MLB hitters look absolutely foolish. And he's stretched out. The Mets let him go. They're a really competitive team. They're going to win a lot of games, and they have a great bullpen behind them. I'll get to that later. That like I really like what Noel McLean brings to the table. And Emmett Sheehan for the Dodgers. I think he kind of goes under the radar. You hear all about the top level signings, the Glasnow, Shohei, Blake Snell. Oh, he's injured, but he's coming back, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and now talk of Roki is apparently going to make the rotation out of spring training, which is certainly a decision. But Emmett Sheehan, like he's just great. Like behind the scenes, like he's got just really good stuff. He's projected right now for like 160 innings. That's probably like a median outcome for any Dodgers starter. I think he's capable of doing more, especially if they, don't really putz around with a 6-man rotation. But like again, another quality winning ball club. They play solid defense behind him. I think those are 2 young guys on very good teams who are fully stretched out, who have just the skills to make hitters look foolish.
I love these 2 picks here. Emmett Sheehan, I am very big on as well. Nolan McLean, I have found some interesting like ranges where he's going in drafts, and I don't quite understand it because he is technically the number 1 pitching prospect in baseball because he still qualifies.
Yeah.
So that is wild to me that I've seen just like a range of where his draft position goes. Carson, who are your 2 picks that you're targeting at starting pitcher?
See, I want to use target to just mean guys I'm hunting for, not necessarily guys in the mid rounds, even like specifically. So I'm telling you what, man, I've said it a few times. I just think top, we mentioned earlier how there's 3, I'm going to keep calling them killer whales. I just like that enough. 2 big orcas that are huge and feisty and they're nasty. And I'm telling you, I think Paul Skenes has the biggest floor of any of them. He's taken second of pitchers right now. And looking at the current, I'm pulling this live, ladies and gentlemen, pulling it at the rankings of where he's being taken. It's an 9 ADP. And I think we're at an interesting point where you have the first 4. That's going to be the same in almost every single league across the world of your hitters. And then after that, 5 is usually going to be either Acuna and Jose Ramirez. And then you get to 7 and things get a little murky. And I just think Skenes is so dependable and so excellent. And I think the Pirates are going to be kind of sneaky decent this year. So the wins isn't something you can just totally freak out on. He's going to get quality starts. He's going to get strikeouts. I think he has the best command, one of the best command, certainly maybe the best command to stuff ratio in baseball. It's up there. Kyle can attest to that maybe as better as I can, but I don't think there's a stat you can look at that said he isn't fantastic. I think he's great at the ADP. People are hesitant to take pitchers early. I'm giving you the full green light. I absolutely, if he slips there. And my second target is another young hot prospect. I mean, Skenes isn't a prospect, but you know what I mean. Chase Burns. Chase Burns, from a pitch modeling standpoint, was like one of the best pitchers in baseball last year. Straight up, in a third of a season, he was electric. And I think his value is slightly low relative to that production because he had a few kind of flare starts, injury concerns. The ERA was, I think, very inflated, maybe by like a run to 2 runs. He's really good. He's going past round 10 at the moment. I think he has a tremendous amount of upside, and I think he's going to get a long leash. I really do. Now that, I mean, they're going to need someone to throw the baseball. Hunter Green's going to be out for half a season. More on him in a little bit. I think he's going to be given the green light, and I want to see him thrive.
If I hate playing the if you take out this start game, right? But Chase Burns just had like one of those games in his second career outing last year where he went a third of an inning and gave up 5 earned runs and 9 hits. He just got ambushed by the Red Sox. If you take that out, I don't know what the numbers are. I can't do the math. I'm not Kyle Smart like that. Okay. But if you take that start out, he was ridiculous. Okay. And for a guy who had maybe half a season of minor league experience before that. I mean, the strikeout totals, 4 double-digit strikeouts total games in his first, I don't know, 6 career starts or whatever that is. If you want to take out the 1 inning one that got rained out, I mean, he basically had 4 10 strikeout games in a row. Just absolutely nuts. Love Chase Burns. And then Skenes is just what scares me about Skenes, and I don't mean this scare like he's going to get hurt. He does it so effortlessly. You watch some guys when they pitch, they look like they have to get everything behind every pitch, and he's just out there, and it just comes out of his hand at 98. And it's like,
it's not just that. He has 7 pitches now. Bona fide 7 pitches he throws. It's really, really rare. And real quick, I was able to pull up since that start you talked about against the Red Sox. Burns, the next 6 starts he made, one of them was abbreviated, but he threw 29 innings, 49 strikeouts, 3.72 ERA, which was a little inflated because of a couple home runs, but 1.79 FIP, and that kind of sells it. I mean, he's got annihilating stuff. He is really electric.
He really is.
That's the thing. He'll strike out the world, and the Great America Small Park, it's going to be tough, especially because when he gets hit, he can get popped a little bit hard. I know prime Spencer Strider had that issue, and that's going to be tough in that park, but it's also he's going to get you tons of strikeouts while he does it. He's not good. He had really incredible preternatural command, his ability to locate at, like you said, this was his first real professional season, and he just hit the ground running so well. And it's also, he had 100 innings between the minors and the majors last year. That's not nothing. He's not a normal, if he wasn't injured or isn't getting piggybacked, you could see him jumping 40, 50, even 60 innings. And I think a lot of people forget the Reds give their young starters a long leash. When Hunter Green was this age, they were letting him go 100 pitches deep, late in the season. That they're a forward thinking as far as not innings limits, but monitoring workloads in a more technical, challenging way, rather than just a raw, okay, he hit his pitch limit. Okay, he hit his innings limit. That they're very smart about it. And so I think they'll let him eat if he's really cruising, and they'll let him go late in the season. And a sneaky thing about Burns too is if he's the piggyback starter, that's a lot of win chances. That whoever's going to be opening, they get, the short end of the stick as far as they can't get wins. But whoever's going to be piggybacking is usually going to be able to pick up a lot of wins in relief, even when they go 3 or 4 innings.
More on monitoring workloads later. We actually do have a question from the crew about that, which we will get to later. So stay tuned if you're interested in that. My picks here are Cam Schlittler and Kyle Bradish. I love the ceiling of both of these guys. I also think that they both have very safe floors. Cam Schlittler is, look, you can look at numbers all you want, and we are not a super analytical podcast when it comes to that. If you want to know more about all that stuff, listen to the approach angle, right, Kyle? I just see a guy in Cam Schlittler who says, hit my fastball, you can't. And he just throws it by guys. And I just love a guy who's got that demeanor on the mound, that I am better than you and there's nothing you can do about it kind of attitude. And his stuff is nasty too. So I'm a big Cam Schlittler guy. And then Kyle Bradish is just been nothing but great anytime he's healthy on the mound. So why wouldn't you target him? I think you can wait if you're not going to go with the strategy to get, one of the top 3 guys. And we talked about this in our round by round preview. Go back and listen to that, guys, over the last few weeks. If you're not going to target the top end pitchers, Bradish makes for a very sneaky ace pick a little bit later on than most of the top 10 pitchers are going. And I think Bradish, though not currently ranked in the top 10, has a very good chance of becoming a top 10 pitcher this year. On to the avoids. Kyle, who are you avoiding?
I'm avoiding Hunter Brown. He's just a guy, I understand the results have been very good. I just don't really believe it. I think he's gotten a lot of kind of fortuitous luck. I mean, he had a 262 BABIP last year, which he's going to have some control of that, but I mean, not a ton. Houston it plays middling as a park, but like there can be some homers allowed. He's not like, right around 50% ground ball, so it's not like he's a high ground ball pitcher. I just I just don't quite get it. And for the price of like, the top tier ace that he's being drafted at, if he does well, I'm just going to be happy to see it on someone else's team. I would much rather have kind of a lot of the other guys going around him at that kind of ace, like SP1 kind of price point. And then my second one is a little bit further down, but it's Luis Castillo. And he's a guy who I've consistently watched succeed on someone else's team. I just never quite understand how he's run a, career of a mid threes ERA when he's, especially this like recent vintage where he's not getting strikeouts. He's, just relying on, at this point, T-Mobile Park to keep him afloat. I'm just always terrified that this is going to be like, I don't want to be holding the bag when, the bottom falls out of Luis Castillo. And every year I say that, and you know what, this is the year where it's going to be proven true.
I don't find Luis Castillo has ever been, even at his best, super helpful in ratios. Sure, you at his peak, he was giving you a lot of strikeouts, but he played for a bad Reds team, wasn't getting you a lot of wins. I just don't understand him much at all. Carson, over to you. Who are you avoiding?
This may come as a surprise. I'm avoiding Joe Ryan. And I'm avoiding Joe Ryan. First of all, the wins are going to be difficult to come by this year. But
Give me your Twins fan card. Just kidding.
You'll have to come and take it. Also, no one has those anymore. Come on. Joe Ryan, is really fun for 2 months, and then he hasn't been able to sustain it. And for a couple years, there's been a question of if, but Joe Ryan's been in the league since 2021. He's had his run and go of it. We've kind of seen it by this point. I think by now, the runway, the training wheels are over and off. You're expected to be able to perform at a consistent level. And I think we can't say if anymore. Here's the thing with Joe Ryan. He allows a lot of home runs, and he has not been able to consistently go deep into the season with the ability to sustain the production that he has shown the first couple months. It's never clicked. And I kind of think we're getting to the point where I'm saying, I don't think it will click. Or maybe it just kind of intermittently clicks. Like something that's kind of broken, but you can't quite fix it. Or like my car's ignition sometimes. It just doesn't totally work. And I like it on paper. I don't think over a full season it's that valuable, and you want a bit more dependability. My second avoid is sort of similar in a weird way. Tyler Glasnow. Tyler Glasnow used to be like on a head-to-head weekly league, really fun, because when he pitched, he was electric. Don't know if you realized, last year when he pitched, he was like, pretty good, decent, nice. And the risk factor that you're taking with taking Glasnow of innings limits and depth of starts and all that jazz is made much worse by the fact that he isn't that guy anymore, where you can say he's pitching at like a Cy Young pace for like 90 innings, which is sort of what you saw with the Rays and maybe a little earlier in the Dodgers career. There was hesitancy. The Dodgers used him in the bullpen in the World Series, and you're thinking, absolutely, that's your start if you're Glasnow, because you get that production. I don't see it. He's taken fairly high in drafts. I mean, relative to a lot of other guys that I think have way more length and honestly, maybe even comparable stuff, which is something that's insane to say now. For Tyler Glasnow was at the very top of the leaderboards for years, but I just think it's too much of a glass cannon for a cannon that doesn't have a ton of gunpowder.
Here's a fun Glasnow stat.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Last year was the first year for Glasnow since 2018 where he threw 60 innings and had a FIP over 3.
Yeah.
Every other year he had a FIP under 2, or he got injured in 2022, didn't really pitch, and COVID shortened 2020. He had a 366 FIP, so really slacking there. But like 2019, 226, 2021, 277, 296, 291, 290, like ripping off sub 3/5, which tells you like those ratios are elite. But then last year, 90 innings, 376, which is like above average. But like when you think of Tyler Glasnow, you're thinking like cream of the crop ratios, not, oh, well, he was helpful. And so I think, yeah, that is kind of the canary in the coal mine a little bit for him.
Looking at Tyler Glasnow's ADP, if just taking the average on Fantasy Pros, not going by any specific site, it's 107.8. Chase Burns is 112.6. If it's, I mean, it's an obvious choice there, like Chase Burns, right? If you're going between those two,
To me, that's no brainer.
yeah, Glasnow just is really made of glass. It's
Would
sad
you rather
to see.
have Glasnow or a Glasnow who's 10 years younger?
Right, yeah, basically. and eventually you have to imagine all of those injuries that he's experienced, whether they're phantom injuries or they're just, because there are some guys who just, if they're not 100%, and Kawhi Leonard is one of them in the NBA, if they're not 100%, they do not play. And I don't know if Glasnow is one of those guys, but let's assume that he's not, right? So he'll play at sub 100% if he can. You have to imagine that these injuries eventually take a toll and you can't perform the same way you used to be able to. And it's not like all these injuries are like, oh, his back or his, his knee. They are arm related. So, I don't know why anyone would draft Glasnow this year. I know that sounds really bad, but like, please don't aim for him. My two avoids are going to be Jesus Luzardo and Zack Wheeler. We've talked about Zack Wheeler before. He's coming off of thoracic outlet syndrome, and that is a career-ending injury for most players. I realize that Wheeler's talent level starts way up here. If you're listening, my hand is above my head. And so to come down from there, he's got more weight. It is. And I really do apologize that it takes up a lot of the frame. But he's got a long way down to go before he's, cooked. But it's just an injury that I want no part of. And I know there was one point in spring training where he was shooting up draft boards, and I'm glad that's kind of cooled off a little bit. So he's an avoid for me. And then like you guys with Hunter Brown and Joe Ryan, I just don't get Luzardo. I just don't. Very up and down, unpredictable. And he's had a number of injuries in his career, and great, he managed to stay healthy last year, but that's 1 year with a guy with shoulder issues. I'm out on Luzardo, especially at the price you have to pay for him. And that's two Philly guys. Man, that Philly rotation with Nola, highly questionable. Do you guys have any notes on Luzardo or Wheeler, or should we move on to swing for the fences?
I've got one on Wheeler in a bit. We'll get to it.
Ooh, that's a tease. Nice. Swing for the fences, Kyle. Who are you taking that's like your big swing, your home run?
So
yeah,
we kind of already covered him. Gerrit Cole. Like, I think after seeing that velo today, like literally this was typing up the show notes right before recording. Like if Gerrit Cole is back, like I'm in. Like he's getting injury discount. People are going to be scared. He's an old pitcher, but like if we're seeing that the stuff is just unfazed, like why not? That like the thing about like an older pitcher coming back from injury is like teams don't necessarily have to be concerned about like down the line, like are they like causing more damage? It is just kind of like, no, we have to lean in this year. The Yankees are an older competitor team. Like they basically need to be all in this year. And so they're going to just let him run. They need to win the division. That's going to be kind of a knife fight to get out of the AL East with the title and get like hopefully a bye, because that's so important, especially, in the playoff structures we've seen. So I really think Gerrit Cole's look good, in all his entire 1 inning and 10 pitches today, but that was enough for me to be back in. And then maybe the bigger one and the cheaper pitcher actually is Luis Severino. Holy goodness. He looked so good in the game against the US in the World Baseball Classic. He was running his fastball, both fastballs, and he threw 30 of them combined, averaging over 98 on them, which was 2.5 miles an hour over where he was last year.
Amped.
He also mixed in a cutter at 96. His sweeper was getting 16 plus inches of movement at 87. Like, just everything across the board. 5 pitches, all of them added at least 2 miles an hour, which is wild. The A's, it's going to be a rough ballpark. We know that. It's pretty homer happy, pretty, you know, it's going to be good for hitters. But the flip side of that is he's pitching in the AL West, and that has 2 of the best pitchers parks in all of baseball, in Seattle and Texas. Those were 1 and 2 for most pitcher friendly ballparks. So he's going to get his fair share of games there too. So I'm in. I am prioritizing Severino as like my late round dart throws, and as I keep doing drafts, he keeps like jumping up like another round for me, because I'm just like, I can't miss him.
Wow, interesting. We haven't seen Sevy like that since a long time ago, but that's really exciting. And I do wonder, just to play devil's advocate, if he was just amped up. You know what I mean? Because that was a big stage for him to be on, and he hasn't quite been on that stage in a few years. Carson, over to you. Who are you swinging for the fences on?
So I've got a few guys here I want to write down. So one of them was, I'm going to say the Twins young guns, and that's going to be McAbel. That's going to be Zebby Matthews, and that's going to say Taj Bradley. They're all not super young prospects. They've been around either a cup of coffee or like a cake in the majors. I don't know. That you get cakes at cafes, right? Sometimes, yeah. You know what I mean.
Muffin.
Yeah, a muffin is excellent. I like that very much. Now I'm hungry. The Twins young guns, they're going to have an elongated leash this year because they are going to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. It looks like Bailey Ober is going to play a diminished role in the rotation. Of course, Papa Lopez is out. So they invested a lot from prospect return capital in getting Abel and Bradley, former top prospects themselves, or I think current. McAbel's up there, or just graduated, whatever. And this spring, they've looked good. They've looked good, right?
Yeah, McAbel specifically he's really popped this spring training. His numbers have really been jumping off the board. So I'm fully in with you on McAbel. And Taj Bradley's looked really good too. I think there's something in the water there with these 3 guys.
Fastballs have been zipping, and Zebby Matthews, for me, and I'll say this a bit, I think later, is like 2 + 2 is not equal 4 with Zebby Matthews. Every single thing I look at, from the stuff grades to the locations to the FIP, the XFIP, the everything, the fact that he can touch 98 miles an hour, none of it makes sense to me. And I just think, like, inherently in what I know about baseball and baseball stats, I just think something has to break. Maybe he isn't going to be able to perform to his expected stats because of something or other. We've seen that with Gerrit Cole, even for a few years back in like the earlier Yankee years. He'd allow a lot of home runs, and the XFIP home run normalizing stats may like him more than his ERA, but they'd be able to hit it out of the fence. We've seen that with Zebby. We saw that with Louis Varland a few years ago. I just think Matthews has a lot to like, and he's someone I think I just got to believe in, because my worldview would be shattered otherwise. My other 2 swing for the fences are semi-related. Number 1, Hunter Green as an IL stash. I think it's worth maybe throwing like a 21st, 22nd round on it, because listen, we've talked before about the risk tolerance and shooting for ceiling. And I think with Hunter Green, you've got an ace, a bona fide elite player that's, especially in a week-to-week basis, one of his starts is going to be fantastic, right? And the thing is with Hunter Green, like, you already expected him to miss a lot of the year, or a portion of the year, because that's what he's done. And I think you can spend a little bit, invest now to reap returns later. I think that's nice. And if he comes back fantastic, you're going to be in a great shape. The other guy I have is Zack Wheeler. We've talked about it before, but here's the thing with Zack Wheeler. Right now, he's going at 129 on the ADP. That is too high. I'm telling you right now. However, something about thoracic outlet syndrome, TOS, is that there's kind of like 2 forms of it. And as I understand it, Wheeler has the not career-ending alarm bells ringing one. He also is going to be a great case study to look at, because we have almost a sample size of 0 of elite pitchers who have had that surgery and come back the year later. I mean, there's almost no one that's like. So you have, I don't know, He's looked decent. I mean, it seems like he's looking decent. There are signs from the organization that they're semi-bullish on it. He's super bullish. The organization's a little more reserved, but I think he's going to play a decent amount this year. Is that going to be 5 starts or 25? I don't think we really know. But when we're talking about risk tolerance, at round 13, it's too much for me. Round 17, round 18, I think it's very, very plausible that he could slip in these drafts for all the reasons we've highlighted, Erik. And if he's around that 17th, 16th round, we were talking about upside versus floor. Your upside's the best pitcher in baseball. Simple as that.
Okay, I can get behind 17, 18. I can
Yes.
draft him at that, because a lot of the guys we're talking about here are not, they're not going to hurt you if they don't pan out based on their ADP of where they're going right now in drafts. And mind you, the season starts next week, so we've kind of, I think, settled in ADP at this point. So these guys, they're not going to, like I said, risk reward, the amount you're investing in them when you draft, it's not crazy. So to take these guys with their upside is not a big deal. This is why they are the swing for the fences pick. And at Wheeler at 17 and 18, he would not be an avoid for me there, I can tell you that. And my picks are going to be Shane Baz and Cade Horton. If you want to talk about swinging for the fences, is Shane Baz good? You're just a baseline simple question. Is he good? We don't know. We'll find out, because he was hurt, and then he played his first full healthy season in however long at George M. Steinbrenner Field, which is Yankee Stadium with humidity, so the ball flies, right? So we don't know if Shane Baz is any good. That's why you're swinging for the fences on the fact that he might be. And then Cade Horton showed a lot of promise last year. He's looked pretty decent this spring with a little bit of unlucky sprinkled in there. So I kind of like Cade Horton a little bit. I think he could be interesting, and he's not very expensive. Again, high upside, was a top prospect. Cubs really like him. He's just going to be able to go. He threw, let's see, what's this, about almost 150 innings last year. So there's really, you can get 165 out of him, 175 easily. So if you're looking for, innings in the late rounds, is like your 7th starter. We talked about that 7, how many pitchers should I draft? Your 7th, 8th starter. Can't hurt to draft Cade Horton. That kind of does it for our starting pitching previews. Just to recap it real quick, we've got Nolan McLean and Emmett Sheehan, Paul Skenes, Chase Burns, Cam Schlittler, and Kyle Bradish as our targets. As our avoids, we have Hunter Brown, Luis Castillo, Joe Ryan, Tyler Glasnow, Jesus Luzardo, and Zack Wheeler, with a little asterisk next to Wheeler as his ADP. And then our swing for the fences picks are Luis Severino, Gerrit Cole, the Twins' young guns, Abel, Zebby, and Taj Bradley. Hunter Green, Zack Wheeler, again, with the little asterisk for ADP, Shane Baz, and Cade Horton. When we come back, we will have relief pitchers, and we've got a nice little twist for you. We've got closers, and then we've got saves plus holds leagues. So we're going to address both of those in our relief pitcher preview in just a moment. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Shallows, the pod designed specifically for you shallow league managers. Welcome in Kyle Bland to the show. He's been here the entire episode with us. We can't thank him enough. Affectionately known as Big Dog, in addition to his giant title here at Pitcher List. And of course, Carson with us as well. Relief pitcher preview. I would ask you preliminary thoughts on the position, but this position is just an absolute mess depending on what league settings you play with. So we're just going to jump right into our targets here. Kyle, starting with you as our guest. What we're going to do is we're going to do one closer to target in a regular saves league and one relief pitcher to target in a saves plus holds league. Again, target, avoid, and swing for the fences on. And when we get to swing for the fences, how do you swing for the fence on a relief pitcher? We'll get there, though. That'll be fun. Kyle, your target, one closer, one save plus hold.
Yeah, closer. I know you talked about him last week in your last podcast about you let him go out to sea, but Devin Williams.
I'm a
Oh,
fan.
he is
I
so
think
far out
he's-
there with Zach
I
Wheeler.
don't know, man.
Oh,
Tell me,
man.
Kyle. Tell me,
Yeah,
Kyle.
tell us. Preach.
I mean, again, like Mets are going to be a great team. They're going to have a lot of opportunities to win ball games. I think this is a guy, we were talking about Tyler Glasnow and like what his FIPS are and like, oh, well, last year was outlier. Devin Williams hasn't had a season with more than 20 innings and a FIP over 3. He's just never had it. His career FIP, like estimator, is 2.45, which matches his career ERA exactly. Like, this is an absolutely elite pitcher who was just undone by whatever bad juju the Yankees have in that closer role. Like, it got Clay Holmes the year before that. It got Devin Williams. I'm praying for David Bednar that it doesn't, whatever that monster is, doesn't just get him too. But man, the like skills to results ratio for Yankees closer is just abysmal. And so now that he's off the Yankees, I'm buying him on another team that isn't cursed in that ninth inning role. I'm all in on Devin Williams. And then kind of in the save hold, kind of a little like deeper. I really like Bryan Abreu. Hader is nursing an injury in Houston right now, and so Abreu is like, oh, he's the fill-in injury closer, and then when Hader comes back, he'll get kind of booted down the pecking order. It's not a given that Hader's going to come back and it's just going to be seamless right back to setting the world on fire with his crazy strikeouts. Like, there can be whatever hiccups in recovery. There could be maybe Abreu just shoves and they ease Hader back in, or they kind of make it a co-closer role. Like, and even if Hader comes back and he's just back in his normal form, Abreu is going to be one of the elite setup men in the entire league. So like, I think I'm taking a flyer on him in all of my saves only leagues, but like in a save hold leagues, he's absolutely found money because he's going to get you saves in the first half of the year, and at worst, he's going to be a great holds option in the second half.
Abreu's been just phenomenal for a handful of years now, and if you're looking for a ratio smoother or just a reliever that can help you win strikeouts on a week-to-week basis in a categories league, like Abreu's there's a good chance he has 100 plus strikeouts as a reliever easily, and so he's a really good pick, I think, regardless of format. And like you said, he's a really good bet as a handcuff if we want to borrow a term from fantasy football. Carson, over to you.
Fantasy football mention.
Over to you. Who are your targets?
My targets are going to be Fat Stacks Jacks, Griffin Jacks, and also maybe my favorite reliever in baseball, or just maybe my favorite pitcher in baseball, Tyler Rogers.
Please tell me that is Griffin Jacks' real nickname.
That's a Carson original.
Oh, I love it.
I've said that for years. It's just like every time he'd come on, I'd just say it's Fat Stacks Jacks. He's putting in the show notes right now. Oh, I love you. Thank you, Erik.
No, that's
Eric.
Kyle. It's 100% Kyle.
Oh, it's Kyle. Oh, it's Kyle. Thank you, Kyle,
you.
my guy. But Griffin Jacks, man, Kyle and I we're part of a 3-person cult with Jack Foley over like, well, I guess now with former Twins bullpen guys, but Griffin Jacks especially is the leader of it, of just some of the gnarliest stuff in baseball. Absolutely disgusting, revolting, filthy, nasty. Bust open the thesaurus. Read it. It will tell you about Griffin Jacks. And the one reservation I have is he's primarily a setup guy. He is probably going to have a lot of closer opportunities here with now Tampa Bay Rays. And there's something weird about closers, and this is, I think, a semi-controversial topic, and I'd actually be curious to hear your take on this, Kyle, but about the closer role in particular, and if about closers and stuff, and about performance in the 9th inning versus elsewhere. I think we've seen a lot of instances of guys being hesitant. I remember this was a big story with Josh Hader about being really hesitant and poorly performing in the 8th, and also set up guys going into the 9th. And I think it makes sense about a nerves race basis. Some guys can do it. I feel like some guys can't. Griffin Jacks historically has gotten save opportunities with the Twins and has done mediocre, certainly relative to his production in setups where he's been sensational. That being said, I trust the stuff. He's been seemingly getting better in the year. I love Fat Stacks Jacks. He's taken so late in drafts. I love him so much. The other guy is Tyler Rogers, who is a unicorn. I think we can properly call him a unicorn. No one else does what he does. And he is going to be on a Blue Jays team that is going to have a player I'm talking about later, and I don't believe in that player. And so I wonder if Tyler Rogers is going to be a kind of closer. He has pitched a lot of innings. He has cut down his walk rate to 2%, and no one can hit his pitches. And so he has dramatically improved his control, where originally earlier in his career that was caused a bit of issues for him. I like him a lot. Also taken super, super late. I think he's a really fun value, and I like those two guys a lot, especially with saves and hold leagues.
Tyler Rogers is the Submariner, right? Not to
He
be confused
is the
with
Submariner.
twin
Yes,
Taylor Rogers.
he
Okay.
is the
Just wanna
guy
clarify that for
that
everybody. out
throws
there.
it from his ankles.
Yeah, it is quite a sight to see him pitch. He carried me for a little bit last year in saves plus holds leagues because he's just a guy that you can bring in whenever.
He throws a ton of innings.
Yeah, doesn't really hurt your arm to throw that soft from that angle. Surprise, shocker. Anyway, Kyle, Carson and I have talked a lot about pitcher injuries, and maybe just don't throw 100 miles an hour every time. Throw 97, you'll be okay. Anyway,
You'd be surprised that that 1 mile an hour difference,
no, I know.
the results are so much better, and that 1 mile an hour is what gets you paid.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. I remember growing up, and when a guy touched 95, it was a big deal. Guys sat 90, 93, and now they're sitting 100. It's just absolutely wild to me. Anyway, Griffin, Fat Stacks Jacks, that's gonna stick. I promise you that. Over to me. Oh, my targets. Jeff Hoffman is my target, the guy in front of Tyler Rogers in the Blue Jays bullpen. And the reason I'm picking Jeff Hoffman, who had a horrendous ERA last year, there was a stretch where I think maybe every other pitch Jeff Hoffman threw was a home run. It's because he threw way too many fastballs last year. And this year, he's already said that he's going to be more slider forward. And that's what gave him success when he was in Philly the year before in 2024. So if he's going to change his if he's going to change his pitch mix, that is a tongue twister for me. And he's going to be more slider forward and revert back to his approach from when he was really, really good that earned him that closer contract in Toronto. I'm going to buy into it. Hopefully we see that. There's no way of really knowing until the season starts, but if a player comes out and says, yeah, my pitch mix was off, I'm going to start throwing my better pitch more, I'm going to believe him, especially because all he does is throw one inning. So, why not throw the one pitch more in the one inning you're going to play every other day or whatever it is? And then my other pick for saves plus holds has got to be Abner Uribe in Milwaukee. I mean, he led the league in the category last year, so I'm going to target him. And in fact, I did in one of the slow drafts I'm in right now. That is a saves plus holds league. Also elite ratios and a really good chance to become the closer, because is Trevor Megill going to stay healthy? He had a forearm strain last year. I believe he had multiple IL stints with that forearm issue over the last couple seasons. I'm just not thinking that Trevor Megill is going to stay healthy. That's what happens when you throw 103 miles an hour. Anyway, moving on to avoid. Kyle, who are you avoiding at the relief pitcher position?
I'm avoiding Carlos Estevez for Kansas City. Where do I even begin?
Oh,
I
boy.
was out on
here you go.
him. I was out on him ending the season last year. I know he's kind of the unquestioned closer in Kansas City. He had 42 saves last year, and that's going to stand out in a lot of people's heads when they think back. And I just don't believe it. I mentioned ERA estimators a lot. His xFIP was 495, and then even XR ERA and FIP, those are almost 4. Those are league average values, which makes sense for a guy who's sporting a 20% strikeout rate. As a closer, that's not going to get it done. And now Now you have the news that Kansas City, they're bringing the fences in. It's probably going to be a more homer happy, more hitter friendly ballpark, which is only going to negatively affect him. And you're going through like spring training. It's fascinating. So it looked like, everything's on fire with Carlos Estevez because they initially classified his pitches as fastballs, and it was like he's down 5 miles an hour. Well, I went back and double checked, and Statcast has updated his pitch types, and it says that his most recent appearance he only threw changeups and sliders. And like, I don't believe that. Like, I don't know that I'm just like, I'm not exactly going to call them liars, but I'm a little skeptical that he decided to just not throw a fastball at all in the World Baseball Classic. But like, if he did throw fastballs, they were down like 4 miles an hour, and he's a guy who is sitting in the low 90s to begin with, so he doesn't exactly have a lot of margin for error there. So like, for all of those reasons, didn't believe in the skills last year. The park's going to get worse for pitchers, and it looks like his velo might be down in spring training. I'm out on Carlos Estevez. And then
one quick stat about Carlos Estevez. The hard hit percentage, according to Statcast, that he's given up so far this spring, 80%. I'm sorry. I've just never, even in a small sample, I've never seen a number that high. And that's just insane. So sorry, Kyle, continue.
No, but to go back to, I don't believe it's all change of sliders. He threw his four seam 50% of the time last year. I'm going to have a hard time he just axed that he just didn't want to use his majority pitch from last year in the World Baseball Classic. Anyway, moving on, enough harping on Carlos Estevez, but my other fade, my other avoid here is Sir Anthony Dominguez. And it's not even just that I don't think, like, the White Sox aren't going to be good. They'll be interesting and maybe even frisky, but I don't know that they'll be good. And like, I don't really buy that as the reason that they won't have save opportunities. I just really don't believe in Sir Anthony Dominguez as closer. And like, another thing too, for these guys who are kind of fringe quality closers on bad teams, is you're like, oh, well, they'll get traded at the deadline. And like, what that means is they might get traded to a competitor. They might get traded to the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Braves, where they're going to get bumped to be like a high leverage 7th inning guy. And
the
so
Twins, right?
yeah, like the Twins. Yeah, absolutely. Right in front of Tyler Rogers.
Taylor.
That I can't
the same person.
At least it's not Trevor. At least I didn't say Trevor Rogers like the broadcast did for the
that they showed the stats.
Yeah, that was great. But yeah, I think he's like the prime candidate of guy who closes for bad team and then goes and becomes like the middle leverage guy for a playoff team. Like that just seems like exactly what this path is for him. And so I'm kind of fading it. Like, if you're really desperate for saves, or like if you're in a roto league where you can like bank the early season saves and then just cut bait midway through, I think that's perfect. Like, I do that, but like otherwise in a head to head, I'm out.
Carson, over to you. Who are your two avoids at the relief pitcher position? I almost said closer position.
Well, more or less. Mine is going to be the definite closer, or at least one of them. It's going to be Edwin Diaz to start, and I'm avoiding him because at his price, I do not think he will deliver on the value, because the amount of value the Dodgers brings to a closer is not as high as you probably think it is. The Dodgers, I was looking back, since Kenley Jansen, they let him go, the Dodgers have not been able to get, like, I think it was 25 saves was the most they were able to get. And for a guy you're drafting in what's probably going to be the 5th round, maybe 6th, depending on your format, I mean, it can be really, really high. He's not going to deliver that much, I think, in terms of saves. And listen, everyone loves Edwin Diaz. He's a beast. I just don't think he's going to return the value. You've got a chance to get, we've just went the whole positional previews. You've got a chance to get a really solid outfielder. You've got a chance to get a really nice starting pitcher in there. Looking at the overall composite rankings, and I'm going to pull this up right now. You've got Edwin Diaz taken, first of all, right after Mason Miller, which is a little crazy. You know what's taken 3 picks after him? Mookie Betts.
Oh, yeah. One of my
Like,
targets.
that's really expensive. And moving further down, I mean, Logan Webb, Cole Ragans, Roman Anthony, Jacob deGrom, Freddie Freeman. I mean, these are top guys. Considering I don't think the saves is going to completely be there, I can't buy it. For my other guy, hey, you guys remember? So, like last year in Game 7 of the World Series, Jeff Hoffman came in and allowed a home run to Miguel Rojas, and the Toronto Blue Jays had a chance to win the World Series, and then they lost in 11 innings in one of the greatest games of all time. And that's because Jeff Hoffman gave a home run to Miguel Rojas, and that was
He
sort of
wasn't throwing his slider.
and that was sort of indicative of the problems that he had all season, which hasn't really probably been addressed. And he's going to also go in Toronto, and that Toronto team is not going to be as good as this year. So, yeah, I'm fading Jeff Hoffman.
Ouch. It's because he
Yeah,
didn't throw his slider.
his confidence is just cratered. He lost the World Series and he's just done.
I think, see, the interesting case about Hoffman is his ADP isn't crazy relative to his upside if he were to revert back to 2024.
Big if.
Right. I understand. Maybe he should have been my swing for the fences pick. This is relief pitcher. Don't invest a high pick in a relief pitcher. I'm sorry. You can want Mason Miller. Yeah. Yeah.
Erik, I'll tell you what. You know who is going to be swinging for the fences? Everyone against Jeff Hoffman.
Oh boy. Boom. I'm gonna throw in a sound effect when I edit the audio of this later. I think that if you invest in a relief pitcher super early, again, it depends on your format. Okay, if you're in a saves plus holds league and you invest in relief pitching, you're going to lose. I'm sorry, it's just going to happen because anybody can get a save plus hold at any time, and their holds are so unpredictable. Kyle, we were talking about this before the show. And if you're in a saves league and you draft a closer super early, as Carson was just saying, you can get a better outfielder, you can get a better starting pitching. Relief pitchers help you generally in categories leagues, one category. Yes, they help massage your ratios. They can get you some strikeouts that might make the difference. But really, they're there for one category. And are you really going to invest a 5th round pick in a guy who's going to help you in one when I can draft Byron Buxton and he's going to help me in 5 or 6, depending on how many categories you have in your league? Yep, I did that, by the way, Carson. I did draft Byron Buxton.
Thank you.
Yep, in both slow draft leagues, including the
pitcherless
league. Yeah, I hope so too. Stay healthy. Anyway, my avoids are the Tampa Bay Rays bullpen, period. All of them, including Griffin Fat Stacks Jacks. I can't say that without laughing. And the reason is because you just don't know who's going to get a save when in that bullpen. You hope it's Griffin's Fat Stacks Jacks, but you don't know. You don't know who's going to get a hold either, because on any given night, the guy who is the setup man next game could pitch in the 6th inning. Or could pitch in the 9th inning. It's just the organizational philosophy, and there's a reason why they didn't bring back the guy who was their closer for the last few years in Pete Fairbanks. It's because they don't need a dedicated closer. That's just not how the organization works. So I'm going to say the entire Rays bullpen is my avoid in saves leagues and in saves plus holds leagues. Moving on to swing for the fences. Kyle, who are you swinging for the fences on? If you can even swing for the fences on relief pitchers.
I think relief pitchers is maybe even one of the more fun positions to swing for the fences, because it's truly like a grip it and rip it. Like if you miss, it does not matter. Like the opportunity cost of picking up some guy off the waiver wire is so little. But someone I really like and who actually has a decent chance, just because the committee's so unsettled, is Ryan Stanek in St. Louis. That we don't really know who the closer is going to be. There are a couple options. I know Riley O'Brien was in consideration. Jojo Romero was there last year, but like Stanek has looked so good. And I know, Mets fans would probably like, it's not worth it. It's not worth the Stanek experience. But like it's a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. It's a slider coming in at 88, just with tight gyro movement. Like this is strikeout stuff. He's got good command. Like he could really put it all together. And the Cardinals are also a team that has shown that like once they settle on roles, they commit to them. So if he shows like he can be the guy that they trust in the ninth inning, like that's an all season role for him. And then I think we're all just jumping around and picking Rays for each category and different Rays in each section. But Gerrit Cleavinger, that like I like, he's a guy, another great ratios, great stuff. It's a dart throw, like any of those, Griffin Jacks, Fat Stacks Jacks is obviously like kind of the prime high level guy, but Tampa is a kind of team, they're very analytically driven, that if they think he's their best reliever, that means he might not necessarily get the ninth inning every game, that maybe, Cleavinger moves back into that. They also have Uceda, but he's kind of injured right now. But they have three options, and of those, I think Cleavinger is the best like combination of skills and value that I'm willing to like take a look at, especially in a saves holds leagues, because like those three are going to, some combination of them is going to close, but then the other two are probably also going to accrue lots of holds as well.
Carson, over to you. Who are your swing for the fences picks?
So my swing for the fence is a guy that, unfortunately for me, flew under my radar about a year and a half ago when I was doing a deep dive into the White Sox organization, recovering from a 41 win season, I think it was. And it's Grant Taylor. Taylor last year had a 4.97 ERA. He had a I'm not sorry. I was right. 1.42 FIP. 1.42.
Elite.
He did not allow a home run last year in 36 innings.
Wow.
He is gnarly. And if you know Grant Taylor and his story a little bit, he was, I think, above Paul Skenes in the rotation, right around with Paul Skenes in the rotation back at LSU. I mean, he is filthy and he dealt with some injuries, and I think he's fantastic from a per inning basis. And if you want to really hammer the point home, there's a chance he might get lengthened out a little bit to start a little bit in this year. That's something he did in the past. He was in the rotation with LSU. It's certainly possible. And I think if you have that upside that he could be a starter that could work out for them, fantastic. But I think he could be amazing. And then my second guy, Kyle, Erik, open a browser, type in Jaden Hill, look at his stats from last year. I'm dead serious. And you, the listener, do it too. Jaden Hill. It's spelled as you think it is. Look at his stats from last year in the minor leagues and the major leagues. And like, look at the strikeouts to walks.
Oh, well, something else that really pops out about his profile when you look it up, it says here he's on the Rockies.
Okay, yeah, but you know what else he throws? A sinker, and he throws a hard fastball that isn't totally reliant on vertical movement that actually plays up pretty well. And also the Rockies have low-key been pretty good at developing relievers over the years. So yes. I'm like, listen, I get it. I know. And he's not even like on the roster right now. It's a guy to keep in mind. I was looking at this before the show and it popped out at me. He had like a 40K minus walk percentage last year. And he kind of just did that in the minor leagues. Like, it sort of doesn't make sense. And I don't know, I could break this down more if I wanted, but we don't have the time. Name to keep in mind. Don't draft him because like, what the hell? But what the heck? I think, I don't know. Still.
Look, this is relief pitcher we're talking about. It's how do you swing for the fences on a relief pitcher? I have decided to pick guys that you have heard of. Ryan Walker in San Francisco, betting on a bounce back. He said he found a mechanical flaw, and hopefully that gets him back on track. Also, who else is going to close games in San Francisco? So Ryan Walker is my swing for the fences pick. Also a good value relative to everyone else that's going above him, so you can get him pretty late, and he could be a source of 30, 35 saves. San Francisco is a team that does not score a lot of runs, even with Rafael Devers there, or they give up almost as many runs as they tend to score. And so I just feel like over the last few years, San Francisco has been a very good source of saves, and they kind of stick to their roles too, unless you are terrible like Ryan Walker was last year, but I'm betting on a bounce back. And then my other swing for the fences pick is Matt Brash. Matt Brash, since coming back from, I believe it was Tommy John surgery in 2024, I believe, has been filthy. Okay. 2.47 ERA last year, a FIP of 3, and okay, a FIP of 3, but like you mentioned him and Nolan McLean in the same breath as far as pitch movement goes, Kyle. And look, Munoz, if I'm not mistaken, had a forearm scare last year, so I'm swinging for the fences that Matt Brash might be the closer in Seattle at some point this season. But that does it for our relief pitcher preview. It is just the Wild West out there when it comes to closers and saves plus holds. But these are the names we talked about. Our targets are Devin Williams, Bryan Abreu, Griffin, Fat Stacks, Jax, Tyler Rogers. That's the one in Toronto, not in. Is he back with the Twins?
Yes. Taylor is back
his-
with the Twins. The one
not
that
his
throws from
Twins.
his ankles.
The one that throws from his ankles in Toronto, Tyler Rogers. Jeff Hoffman and Abner Uribe. Our avoids are Carlos Estevez, Seranthony Dominguez, Edwin Diaz, Jeff Hoffman, and the entire Tampa Bay Rays bullpen. And our swing for the fences picks are Ryan Stanek, Gerrit Cleavinger, Grant Taylor, Jaden Hill, Ryan Walker, and Matt Brash. So if you didn't catch that, there is a Ray in every single category. That does it for our relief pitcher preview. We will be right back with your questions, the segment from the crew, when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Shallows, the pod designed specifically for all you shallow league managers out there. This is From the Crew, our mailbag segment, where we answer your questions. We received a lot of these over the last few weeks, and so because we are focusing on pitchers today, and we have Kyle here with us, and this is the last season before the last show before the season officially kicks off, these are all pitching and draft-focused questions we have received from you, our crew. If you'd like to drop us a question that we can answer for you right here in this segment, but like in the future, not this one because you can't do it live, you can leave a comment on YouTube. You can hit us up on Twitter or Blue Sky at Erik Hinn or at Carson Picard. And you can email the show, theshallowspod@gmail.com. So our first question from Nels Jensen. You might remember we had a question from Nels earlier in the season as well. This one came in at the same time. I just thought, all right, we'll wait till pitchers. Nels on Blue Sky asks, constructing a team with two aces, where is the rough ace cutoff in your pitcher rankings? Kyle, let's start with you. About how many pitchers deep? Where do you kind of cut off the ace tier?
Like ace means so many things to so many people. I know we've talked about like the orcas as we're going by now with like the big three, from one big dog to three other big dogs, game recognized game. Like I like them a lot, but I'm happy with 9. Like I could take 9, maybe 10 starting pitchers and think like, okay, if this is my SP1 lock, I'm good. Or if I can get 2, like if I'm drafting like in the top of the first round and it's coming back to me like in that second, third turn, like I think if I could snag like 2 of a Christopher Sanchez and like a Logan, or sorry, not a Logan Webb, because that's just drafting the same pitcher twice. I love both of them, but like a Sanchez and a Jacob deGrom, like I'm here for that. Like I think that's a great way to just lock in those elite, like you've got your 2, you're set. Now you can just look at pitchers again. But yeah, I think anywhere from like 1 to 9, I'd be happy. I'd be more than happy with one of them. And if I can get 2, I'd be ecstatic.
So I was looking over at the ADP rankings. So let me read you here. And I think there's a pretty definite line, at least as I read it. 12, 13, 14, and 15 on the rankings is as follows: Webb, Ragans, deGrom, and Peralta. 16, 17, and 18 is Kirby, Cease, and Ryan. To me, there is a very obvious and definite line, depending on how bullish you are, either after deGrom or after Peralta. So I think, obviously there's a pretty big difference between some like Ragans and Skenes, but I think it's like 15. To me, I'm thinking the top 15 pitchers, those are ace or, your light aces or whatever you want to call it. After that, though, that's a definitive tier 2.
I think that's a really good point. I may toss up there just because I'm so bullish on Bradish. I think he takes the leap up there. And Ohtani has never been a bad starting pitcher. It's just pure volume, I think, that keeps him out of the conversation there. But yes, I agree with you guys. There's like a 9 to 15 range of pitchers, amount of pitchers that kind of is the cutoff there for aces. Bacon on the PL Discord. That's the username, not the snack or breakfast meat item. Bacon on the PL Discord. The Yanks organization talked a decent bit last year about not believing innings limits were necessary now that they have additional ways to measure when arms begin to deteriorate. We kind of talked about this earlier in the show, and this was the tease for, and that was the tease for right now. At the same time, we see organizations like Toronto already announcing workload limits for Savage, and the Dodgers building a staff meant to have built-in IL stints. Oh my goodness, that can drive you nuts in the fantasy world. Would love to read a deep dive into the dueling philosophies in pitcher development / health if possible. I'm just going to add my quick 2 cents here, and then you guys take it away. There was a time when guys just pitched, and they just kept going until they ran into trouble.
Old man Erik coming out.
Sorry, not to date myself. This was even before my time. Nolan Ryan had wild splits between his, I don't know, when he tore his UCL or tore the labrum in his shoulder or whatever, and then he just kept pitching. And he had a Hall of Fame career after it. Not that these guys had rubber arms. I know they weren't throwing as hard, but there was a time when pitch counts didn't matter and guys just went. And I think there's something to be said for that. And not babying, and we talked about this before, not babying these grown athletes, because if you look at some of these organizations that baby their pitchers more than others, I feel like those organizations tend to have more injuries. Just throwing that out there. Okay, that's my 2 cents. Kyle, let's go over to you.
Yeah, I think teams are getting a lot smarter about it. I know, I've had the chance at a Saber Analytics conference to talk kind of with some team employees that it's innings limits are kind of the early proto work management. And then it's okay, well, let's look at pitches per start. But now teams are also looking at it as kind of to go to a hockey terminology, a shift. That if you have a long shift in hockey, you're going to get progressively more and more tired, even as only a little bit more time is added on at the end. And so in with teams that they're looking at, are these challenging innings? Are these innings a 30 pitch inning that drags on? That's those last 10 pitches are going to be maybe as hard on the body as the 20 prior. Because if you think if a guy throws, I think MLB averages about 16 pitches an inning. So if a guy throws anywhere from that to about 20, then he gets a break between innings, can kind of recover a little bit, then go out again, do that again. And especially if a guy does a nice efficient 10, 12 pitch inning, then, maybe he buys himself a little more time on the back end. But once you get that, a lot of traffic on the bases, maybe he walked 2 guys, that kind of 30 pitch inning that'll actually shorten an outing. And so you kind of have to start looking at, instead of innings limits, it's almost like an efficiency limit of if a guy's really good at getting through innings, getting his outs regularly, that they might be less interest. He might go longer into games. That it's almost like a Drew Rasmussen effect of he'll get you a quality start from 80 pitches, he has to be very efficient, but the Rays will kind of let him go through if they're easy pitches. So I think that's, it's always a ever-changing landscape as far as limits like that, and it is very team-to-team based. I know I talked about the Reds tend to give a long leash with their pitchers. I know, we talked so much about the Rays today, and that they tend to have a shorter or a more pitcher-specific approach to how much of a leash the starters will go into games. And so you do have to kind of be aware of it. I think announced workloads for young players kind of make sense, but I think they can also be overblown of if a guy is thrown triple digits professional innings. And I think a lot of this is people just look at MLB totals. And if a guy threw 60 in the minors and then 40 in the majors, that's 100 innings. That's what Chase Burns did last year. And you can see guys will get 50 innings going from 100 to 150 the next season. That happens pretty often. And so it's just be smart, listen to the beat writers for playing time stuff. As someone who does his best to project playing time, it's such a dart throw. So listen to what the writers tell you. They've got their boots on the ground. They're hearing what the manager says, and what the manager says isn't law. It's not canon, but it's at least a more educated guess than people who aren't with the team day to day.
And the last thing I want to add on to that, brilliant, by the way, Kyle, love that shift analogy. My Minnesotan heart is sated. I think that also it's worth mentioning that the Dodgers, in the way they've built their team to be playoff ready and have success there, Dodgers are inherently going to have a different risk tolerance than a wild card chasing team. And let's talk about like the seventh inning. The seventh inning, if we're talking about that, that's definitely a place where different teams are going to be, assuming similar pitch counts, right? If you are able to have your guy go out longer and have maybe a more risk of wear or risk of whatnot, straining your arm, straining your rotation, but alleviating pressure on your bullpen a little bit, that's going to be different depending on what team it is. For the Dodgers, they can maybe rely on that sort of built-in IL stints and less dependability in order to be all systems go in the postseason. And that's just going to be a mentality that a team like the Reds can't have because they're not going to necessarily guarantee a playoff spot.
Kyle had to run. We want to thank him so much for joining us today on the pod. But moving on here, and we'll talk more about Kyle in a second because that was some really great stuff from him. Nick P, not Nick Pollock, not the Nick Pollock, but another Nick P emailed us, and we do have an email, and we do answer it. Nick P asks us, there are many different opinions about saves plus holds instead of saves. We talked a lot about relief pitching today. My logic is saves holds reflects how bullpens actually work today. With so many committees, chasing saves has become more about guessing a manager's plan than evaluating players' skill. This change rewards relievers based on talent and production, not just opportunity or simply pitching in the ninth inning. Thoughts, agree, or disagree?
See, Nick, I think you're absolutely right. I think absolutely managers are becoming more aware of leverage and being more aware of situational pitching, not necessarily save your guy for the bottom of the ninth. That being said, the bottom of the ninth is, as I believe, the bottom of the ninth is different. That's a different place in the game than any other inning. And you can see this with guys that are shifted around in their bullpen roles. Setup guys sometimes can't do it in the ninth. And conversely, closers can't always do it in the eighth and the seventh. It's a different game. And when the lights go down and you play the music and Hell's Bells comes on and they're running out, that's a totally different mental environment. And they show up to the ballpark every day knowing that's their inning and they're locked into that. So saves, I do think, are still important. This is a team-dependent thing, and it's not necessarily bullpen by committee kind of exists, but it often exists when there isn't a definite closer. Josh Hader's the closer in Houston. That's not changing. And when Diaz is going to be the closer in Los Angeles, that's not changing, barring catastrophe. So I think that absolutely reliever roles have shifted and there's not necessarily a definite put them in pen kind of deal with bullpens nowadays, but the ninth inning is still kind of a special different thing and that should be accounted for.
Yeah, I agree. The thing with saves plus holds, though, as I mentioned earlier in the show, it totally wipes out the value of relievers because you have a much larger pool of players that now become fantasy viable. Like Abner Uribe last year in a saves league was essentially worthless. In a saves plus holds league, he was the number one relief pitcher. Okay, so you see the drastic night and day difference there. Really can affect player value, especially when it comes to drafting. I don't know which format I prefer, but the fact that an entire position that you're required to have in a saves plus holds leagues essentially makes it worthless on draft day, and then you can just drop ad nauseum. I tend to prefer saves leagues for that reason, because then it requires you as a fantasy manager to be read up on things, to be involved, and to be really, interested in solving that one category that you might need to be successful. And moving on here to our last question. It comes from our very own Adam Howe on the Pitcher List Discord. Adam asks us, what positional yes, he did phrase it like this. I copied and pasted. What positions do you find to be the easiest to stream in a shallow league? One where you feel comfortable grabbing off the wire each week based on matchups and opportunity rather than focusing draft capital early to solidify an everyday player.
I think this is, I mean, I'm assuming this is referring to position players, right? So I'm going to run with that. I think as we've gone through the positional previews, we've seen that there's definite shelves and cliffs for a lot of different positions, some much earlier than others. For me, I think the three that stand out for streaming is outfield, catcher, and first base. First base is a really interesting one because you've got guys that play 160 games, a lot more than others, but you also have a lot of guys that are kind of fringe players that will have offensive production, and also hot streaks that comes up a lot. Players just, they're almost naturally big swinging power guys. And so that comes up and they can go on a tear for a month and a half and you'll see that reflected. Catcher is fairly similar in the regard that guys can just kind of come up. It happens. And with catcher in particular, there's so much shifting going on with that position that a player that even can have a backup secondary catcher role, if that primary catcher goes down, as they so often do, or what have you, you could have a second catcher that does pretty dang well. And then for the outfield, especially if you got short side platoon guys or just platoon guys in general, he's past his prime now. But it, like, for a few years, Jock Peterson was one of my favorite players in baseball because he, on a rate basis in a daily league, he was fantastic if he only played about 465 plate appearances a year. So those three, I think I can shift around and I can do. The rest of the infield, absolutely not. You want to lock that up early.
Yeah, I agree with you. Outfield for sure. There's a lot of players that play outfield, and every year just because there's so many players, you have a greater odd. There are greater odds of players emerging from nowhere. So outfield is one of those. Like Ramon Laureano was fantastic last year, and he's an outfielder, and he kind of came out of nowhere. So like outfield, yep, and then catcher, because catcher's strangely deep, especially one catcher leagues. You don't have to invest super early. If your guy is, not good, drop him, and then you can find another one, or you can just stream the hot bat at the position. So I agree with you, Carson, on that. And then like second and third base, you better not plan to stream that. You are asking for pain. Why would you do that to yourself?
Oh yeah.
On the rundown here, I have throw to Kyle so that he can tell us what's going on. And I had this whole plan where I was going to be like, this camera, as an ode to Sean Evans on Hot Ones. But he's not here anymore, so I can't do that. And that ruined my thunder. Thanks, big dog. Anyway, we can't thank Kyle enough for coming on.
I'll tell you this, Kyle, he's the one that's in charge of pretty much all the stats at Pitcher List. I had a chance to look at some behind the scenes stuff about the player cards on the Pitcher List stats account, Pitcher List POV account. Go give that a follow. It's his bread and butter. It's his work. And it is one of the best fantasy accounts and baseball accounts you can follow on, the World Wide Web. Kyle's fantastic. He does great work, and we really appreciate his elongated time today. We had a lot to talk about with him.
We did, and like I said, like Carson said, and I'll reiterate, thank you so much to Kyle for joining us today. We're going to wrap it up right there. We'll be back next Friday with a brand new episode, and remember, the completely overhauled Live Draft Assistant is available now for all PL Pro subscribers. It's like having Kyle sitting next to you while you draft. Really cool. So to make sure you never miss an episode, please subscribe. We're available wherever you get your podcast. If you have a question, reach out to us. Social media, the Discord, email, theshallowspod@gmail.com. He's Carson Picard, at Carson Picard on Blue Sky. I'm Erik Henriksen, at Erik Hin on Blue Sky and Twitter. That's Erik with a K. Reminding you that murky waters are fine if you know how to swim, and if not, we are here. Throwing that ring out to you to help you take home fantasy glory. See you next time in the shallows.
Good luck on your drafts. Take care, y'all.